ओ ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविरावीर्म एधि वेदस्य मआणिस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि हृदं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम् अवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यत् साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। श्रीकृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव जिह्वे पिबस्वामृतमेतदेव गोविंद दामोदर माधवेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति, हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। नारायण 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 नारायण। In the last session, we were seeing the verses 31 and 32 of chapter 3, where Bhagwan brought out the final goal or final result which two set of people achieve in their life. One who has faith in the words and advices and teachings of Supreme Consciousness, Bhagwan Krishna, and follow that diligently in their life and lead a life of action which is absolutely as per the karma yoga path outlined by Supreme Consciousness Bhagwan Krishna, because they have faith in that words of Supreme Consciousness and the teachings and advice of Bhagwan Krishna. That is why they are able to follow that path in their life and lead their life accordingly. What happens to them? Te Bhagwan said, "Et de muchyante te api karma bhihi." They also get free from their actions. They also gain the eternal freedom in their life, irrespective of which life they gain, depending upon the propensity or the with whatever magnitude they are able to follow that in their path, they will gain accordingly to that. But it is for sure that they will also become free, or become free means become liberated in their life at some stage in their life for sure, or because they are walking on that correct path. And then Bhagwan on the contrast spoke about those people who do not have faith in the words of Supreme Consciousness Bhagwan Krishna, because they have got into the habit of criticizing everything what is given to them. They think that they are very intelligent, and they end up criticizing everything, whether good, bad, without even thinking what is there. They have the habit of just getting into criticism mode. Why? Because they have lack of faith. Lack of faith and the habit of criticism is the one which becomes responsible for their destruction in their life. And Bhagwan says those people are actually vimudhanstan, understand themselves as to be the greatest fool among men. They are Visheshana Mudaha. They are decorated fools. I would use that word. Visheshana Mudaha means they are fools. They are like crowned as they're sitting at the crown of being the fools in this creation. Nashtana Chetasaha Vidhi. They understand their wisdom to be completely destroyed. Their capability to think about right and wrong is completely destroyed. And with that destroyed thinking, they end up destroying their life and derail themselves in the journey of life. And if they get derailed in the journey of life now, of course that derailment is going to continue unless and until in some life something hits them hard on their head and then corrects their understanding. So that is what we discussed in the last session. I will read Pujya Gurudev's commentary on verse number 31 and 32, and then we will move on to verse number 33, which is what we have to take up today. So I'll read Pujya Gurudev's commentary on verse number 31 and 32. Pujya Gurudev says, in order to hammer this new interpretation of the Vedic truth into the acceptance of his generation, the Lord says, and that is where the verse number 31 comes. And that was the connecting commentary of Pujya Gurudev, connecting verse number 30 to 31. Pujya Gurudev says in verse number 31's commentary, it is clearly brought out here that the above technique can bless us not by a mere study of it, but only when it has been properly practiced in life. The term religion, matam, in Sanskrit means opinion. This is Krishna's opinion, Sri Krishna's matam. The philosophy of spirituality is universal and therefore the same everywhere. But religions differ from prophet to prophet, for there are many different opinions entertained by these different masters regarding the best manner by which their particular generations could be guided towards the final experience of the eternal factor. One ought not to live through life as a mere beast of burden, doing its daily routine and sweating under the driver's whip. Work only hardens the muscles. It can smoothen out the ugly wrinkles in our character and add a glow of health and vitality to our inner personality only when we bring the inner equipments of our heart and head into the work, which our hands and legs perform in the outer world. This is accomplished by pursuing the Karma Yoga advised earlier with full faith, Shraddha, and without cavilling, Anasuyantaha. Faith, Shraddha, is a very pregnant word in Sanskrit which refuses to be defined fully by any single word in English. But Shankara's explanation of Shraddha has a purely intellectual import and it has no direct emotional appeal for the seeker. Faith in Vedanta means the ability to digest mentally and comprehend intellectually the full import of the advice of the saints and the declarations of the scriptures, which is what I mentioned there. Na? Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasa Shraddha. Bhagavan Shankaracharya in Tattva Bodha says there. In fact, without faith, no activity is ever possible, and faith cannot grow where intellectual conviction has not come to play in full blaze. Without cavilling, anasuyantaha. A mere intellectual theory cannot be understood and appreciated without our adverse criticisms of it. We criticize to know and understand more exhaustively a piece of knowledge. But here, Krishna is advising a technique of living which cannot fulfill itself in our life through mere criticism and questioning. Krishna is warning Arjuna that he will neither understand fully nor come to gain the blessings of that way of life by deep study and noisy discussions. It can be understood and experienced only by living it. They too are freed from work. He said, no, oh, muchyante te api karmabhihi. Puja Gurudev says, immature students of the Gita have been seen to cool down in their enthusiasm when they meet with the use of such terms. All through the chapter, Krishna was insisting that man should act diligently and rightly. All of a sudden, he points to a strange looking goal, worklessness. Naturally, an intelligent reader immediately comes to feel a disgust at this ugly paradox. This is mainly because of our lack of appreciation of the term in its native scriptural import. Earlier, we have explained how the ignorance of our spiritual nature gives rise to desires, which in their turn cause thought agitations, and how work is nothing other than thoughts fulfilled among the sense objects. Thus, the state of worklessness is itself the state of thoughtlessness, which indicates the condition of desirelessness. Absence of all desires can come only when we rediscover the all full nature of the self. In short, with the knowledge of the self, when spiritual ignorance is terminated, desires can no more arise. Thus, the term freed from work indicates the state beyond ignorance or the state of selfhood. This supreme state, no doubt, can never be reached purely through work. Parliament Street is not the Parliament, but having reached Parliament Street, the Parliament cannot be very far away. One cannot miss reaching the Parliament there. Similarly, Karma Yoga is extolled here as the path that takes one ultimately to the Supreme, because through desireless activity one achieves Vasana purgation, thus making the mind purer and subtler for meditative purposes. Now, Gurudev connects verse number 31 to 32. As contrasted with the above, Sri Krishna explains what happens to those who carp at this theory of right action. So, in the commentary of verse number 32, Puja Gurudev says, those who decry this great teaching of mine and do not practice it, Krishna warns his students, will become more and more deluded and will lose their discrimination. Man is encouraged to follow a life of action only when he comes to appreciate that way of life completely in his understanding. When the very theory is decried, it is no longer conducive to the intellect to accept it. Thus, Decrying a philosophy is a sign of one's intellectual rejection of it. Having once rejected intellectually, there is no chance of an individual ever striving to live that philosophy. Karma Yoga is a way of life, and we have to live it if we want to come under its grace. The path of work lies through a process of elimination of the desires in us. When the ego and egocentric desires are eliminated, the work accomplished through such an individual is the true divine action, which is destined to having enduring achievements. To the extent man is not practicing this efficient way of work, he would grow necessarily unintelligent, and to that extent his discriminative capacity will deteriorate and ultimately get destroyed. The blessing because of which man is considered superior to animals is his divine faculty of discrimination. An intellect strengthened by its own intrinsic capacity to distinguish between the real and the unreal, the right and the wrong, is the mighty instrument of self development in man. When this instrument is destroyed, man comes to behave in no better way than a biped animal, panting on the path of existence, bullied by its own lower instincts of miserable passions and low appetites. Naturally, he fails to make any true gain out of his life's chances and finally destroys himself. That is what Puja Gurudev has to say in the commentary of verse number 32. Now, before I read verse number 33, which is our discussion today, I will read connecting Bhashya of Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji, connecting in verse number 31 and 32 to verse number 33. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji says, Kasmat punah karanat twadiyam matam na anutishtanti paradharmam anutishtanti swadharmam cha na anuvartante tvat pratikulaha katham na bibhyati tvat shasanat atikrama doshat tatra aha. Then why? What is the cause why people will, do not follow the path advised by you? They do not follow the path as advised by you in your teachings. They go and take up or follow the dharma of others, the duties of others, and do not want to fulfill their own duties, do not or shy away from fulfilling their own duties, but they are very happy in picking up somebody else's duty. They are ready to do paradharma. Paradharma means others' work, but their work they are not interested in doing. Their path they don't want to follow. And here one thing it's which is hidden as subtle messages, especially for those people who are Sanatan Dharmis or Hindu Dharma. They don't. There are many such people in a Hindu Dharma also. They are not interested in following their own dharma, but they are very eager to follow other dharma. When Bhagwan spoke about in the second chapter, avyavasayatmika buddhi, means they do not have a firm resolve for their own teaching, but they will. I'm not naming the different and kind of people there. I could have easily done that, but why should I do that here? You are intelligent enough to understand what I'm referring to here. They are not ready to follow their own teachings, but they are ready to adapt other religions and other teachings. They are very interested in doing that, but their own they are completely want to remain ignorant, and because of their ignorance, when others point out something, they think, that they are saying right only. Here Bhagwan says, why what is the reason why such people are there, who are not interested in following their own duties. They are not ready to follow their own dharma, but they're ready to take up others dharma. Why do they go against your advice? You are the ruler of this creation, you are the creator. What gives them what is that which makes them decry you? What makes them not follow you? What makes them go against your teachings? Why they get into such kind of fault? Why are they not fearful of your rule? Well, what is the reason for that? For that, answering that question is what Supreme Consciousness Bhagavan Krishna is giving the next verse. Puja Gurudev also in his commentary connecting verse number 32 to 33 says, then why do not men follow this doctrine and perform their duties fully? Why should they follow others or act on their own? In disobeying Krishna, why are they not afraid of transgressing the Lord's commands? For that only the verse number 33 is given. Now I'll read verse number 33. Read Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji's bhashya on that, and then we'll take up the meaning from there. Verse number 33, chapter number 3. सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्याः प्रकृतेर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रह किं करिष्यति सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्याः प्रकृतेर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रह किम करिष्यति. Before I read Bhagwan Shankaracharya's bhashya on that, there is one thing which I want to highlight for this particular verse. This verse has got many deep and subtle aspects to understand. Please be careful and attentive in listening to this verse so that you understand the correct import of this verse. I am also going to bring out in the discussion of this particular verse, what you call that, a completely opposite thought process which is also prevalent. I'm going to bring out subtle aspects because ultimately some people misunderstand this verse and feel that if this is true, then what is the point of working towards improvement and all? Do not get that meaning. I'm warning you now only, there are subtle aspects. I am only going to, like a devil's advocate, bring out the opposite sides also so that we have a clear understanding of this particular verse. Now I'll read Bhagwan Shankaracharya's bhashya on this verse before we get into the meaning. सदृशम अनुरूपम चेष्टते कस्याः स्वस्याः स्वकीयायाः प्रकृतेः प्रकृतिः नाम पूर्वकृत धर्माधर्मादि संस्कारः वर्तमान जन्मादौ अभिव्यक्तः सा प्रकृतिः तस्याः सदृशम एव सर्वो जन्तुः ज्ञानवान् अपि किं पुनः मूर्खः तस्मात् प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रह किं करिष्यति मम वा अन्यस्य वा. A brilliant verse. Now in this particular verse, Bhagwan is going to bring out, Supreme Consciousness Bhagwan Krishna is going to bring out certain realities of life. Now Bhagwan is slowly, gradually peeling down on the truth of this creation. Creation means truth of this created. Why you see so many diversity in this creation? Why, even though human being seems to be only differing in shape, sizes and form and manner, but there seems to be completely opposing in ways of acting in the people. Thought process seems to be so diverse. Why? Now Supreme Consciousness Bhagwan Krishna says is to, hey Arjun, inside every human being there is something called a nature which is existent, prakriti which is there, and generally each one of us is enslaved by this prakriti, this nature of us. We are slave to this nature which is existing in each one of us. And please remember that word, each one of us. Now I told you, Supreme Consciousness Bhagwan Krishna is opening the truth about this created and why there is so much of difference in action and within this creation itself. Bhagwan says, is towards the end of this verse, Bhagwan says, Nigraham kim karishyati. And here the word Nigraha means, if each one of us is enslaved by our own nature, we work as slaves to our own nature, we are tied by our own nature, then and how can somebody else's rule, somebody else's teaching be effective on us? Why will somebody else's teaching be effective on us for our improvement if we are all enslaved to our own nature? Now here I told you there are subtle aspects of this verse which we need to understand. Here, the word nigraha kim karishyati does not mean that since we are enslaved by our nature, how will we decide our way of acting at all? What freedom we have to choose our action? Please do not take that meaning. Here, Bhagavan is not saying that how will a person and control his own action. That is not what is meant. Yes. Now the aspect we need to understand is the way Bhagwan wants to say here is, if we are all enslaved by our own nature, how can somebody else improve us? How can somebody else's teaching control us? How can somebody else's teaching keep us in our way? Now, one thing which I need to highlight here, you can see that in the common parlance, and considering what I've just said is, whether it is police, whether it is court, whether it is army, whether it is our constitution, or whether it is rule of God himself, what will it do if we are so much under the control of our own nature? What can it do to us? Now I'm just giving you an example. Is police, court, army, constitution, all those things are of course present there. But have we eradicated crime and all? Why? Do you think police, court, army, and all these, the constitution or anything, are the one which are going to ensure that all of us live a harmonious life? Have we been able to carve out a society living a harmonious life? There is crime and all is so rampant. Police has already been there for so many years. In every country it is there, whether it is developed nation, whether it is underdeveloped nation, whether it is developing nation, everywhere police, court, army, constitution, laws, everything are there. But have has any of these things been able to ensure that we are a crime free society? Why? Because these things which I mentioned are not there, or do not have a control on us to improve ourselves. These things are there to punish when things go wrong, provided people get caught. They are there to punish. Why? That punishment should become a deterrent for others to get into that, right? That is the reason of police, court, army, constitution, law, and all those things to be there. It should become a deterrent for others before they commit such crimes. But that will also depend on the speed to justice, how soon police is able to catch criminals, how much time it takes court to decide upon a punishment, how effective army is to control a situation when it goes out of hand, how effective our constitution or law is to bring the culprit to the books, to the jail, to the courts. Those things will decide whether actually these things, how much the intensity of deterrence these things have on the society. But the problem is, since it takes time for all these things to happen, that is why the crimes are not completely under our control. But each one of us, if we take the responsibility to manage ourselves, we constantly take the responsibility to improve ourselves, then trust me, all of us, if we get improved, I'm telling you very honestly, police, court, army, and all those things, even though they will be there, but technically they will not be required to govern the society. They will not be required to govern anything if each one of us takes the onus of improving ourselves. It is very easy to point out that is wrong, this is wrong, this is not right, that is not right. You can continue to do that, but it is not going to lead you anywhere. Each one of us must stand up and take the responsibility of each one of us to improve. That is what Bhagwan mean to say here. If even though these things are there, these things cannot control the behavior and action of people at all. And Bhagwan here says, Jnanavan api, even when a man becomes a man of wisdom, or man of self knowledge, jnanavan api swasyaha prakrutehe sadrisham cheshtate. He says, even a man of, yeah, when I say man of knowledge means, Jnanavan means man of self-knowledge. Huh? Whenever the word Jnani is used, it's not about the other streams of knowledge we are talking about. We are talking about the subject of self-knowledge. The person who knows the supreme consciousness, who knows the about the self, who we called earlier as Jnani, who we called as earlier Sthita Prajna in second chapter. Man of steady wisdom, man of realization. And here that is what is meant by Jnanavan api. So Bhagavan says, Jnanavan api swasyaha prakritehe sadrisham cheshtate. All the efforts, cheshta means all the efforts, or even for the man of wisdom, are moving into the direction according to their own nature. Now, since I mentioned that word, I must explain you about the nature of a jnani also. I'm going to do that as we move along. So, even a man of steady wisdom also acts in the world according to their own nature. Bhutani prakritim yanti. Each human being, every human being in this creation, they act in the world according to their own nature, all of their own nature. Now, the thing to learn from this is that, we need to understand about this aspect a little bit subtly, little bit deep, for that so that we can gain a clarity around this. What is the key message we should drive home from this what we just mentioned? We must learn this thing, that even if we act for the good of somebody, even if we act in the benefit of someone, and the one knowledge which should always be inside us, one realization which should always be within us, is that at the other person towards whom, even though we are acting in the good for the other person, but their action or their reaction, their act towards us will always be according to their own nature. And since their nature is such, they will end up doing that way only. you know uh, if we do not understand this aspect, and we do not accept somebody's nature, then remember, uh, when we act in our own goodness to someone, with the thought that we are doing good to someone, and when they react weirdly or differently, otherwise we will have something called anger which generate in us. Why? Because they did not react according to our expectation. Our expectation was that since I acted in good, at least they should have minimum good towards me, right? So uh, each one of us has this thing resident in all of us called our own prakriti. Each one of us have something called habits within us, and irrespective of whatever we do, that other person will always return or come back to their own nature or habit. One example I'll give you, it's striking from somewhere. There was a Mahatma, there was a saint who was walking on the seashore. He was taking a walk. He suddenly saw a scorpion being troubled by the waves. So the scorpion was trying to move to the shore, but every time it used to make an effort, the sea wave used to come and pull it back into the sea. So it was trying hard to escape. So the saint saw while walking. So to help the Scorpio, he picked up the Scorpio by his hand to keep him on the shore. Now remember, but the Scorpio, even though the saint was helping him, his nature or his way of acting is he bit the saint who was trying to help. Now, the saint could have thrown the Scorpio back into the sea and let him face his own life. Why should I help? No, but the saint still, even though the Scorpio stung the saint, but the saint actually kept the Scorpio at the shore and let it escape the waves. And after that, his hand was poisoned by the sting of the scorpio, but he didn't curse or become angry about the scorpio. Why? Because that is how his behavior was. That is what his prakriti, his nature is. He will act according to his nature. No, should the saint would have expected that I am helping in the scorpio, so he should understand that I'm only saving him. He should bless me, or garland me or something like that. No, that expectation is wrong. Scorpio will act according to what his nature is. He did not understand whether the saint is saving him or not. He thought somebody is trying to catch him. So he bit, even though he was struggling hard to move back into the sea, and the saint kept it at the shore, so the Scorpio could save itself from being dragged by the sea waves. But still, it stung and it went off. And the saint also walked away. We should, whenever we act towards other people, we should know that everyone acts according to their behavior. Trust me, I am telling you, the world is such a beautiful mixture of people with all kinds of nature, where that some people, I'm telling you, with the saint example also, even if you try to help also, you will be able to see their nature clearly. And by God's grace, after the podcast, I come across so many people. There is no reason to be angry with anyone, because everyone is a product of their own nature. And thanks to supreme consciousness, Bhagwan Krishna, and his teachings, when we look at ourselves also, our reaction is also according to our nature. Then why should we be angry on somebody else if that is their own nature? So if when we expect something and the act is not according to that, then remember, we are the one who get impacted by it, because we'll get angry. All of us have something resident in us called our own nature and habit. And remember, all of us return to that at some point, or most of the time, whenever we have to act outside. Prakritim yanti. Then one question we should ask is that, to the teacher, is that, are there some people who are outside their own nature, or who are outside the control of their own nature? Now Bhagwan Krishna makes it very clear here. Jnanavan api, even a man of knowledge also, who acts in the world according to his nature, which has been there. Now here is what we need to understand. There are some aspects which I'll highlight here for you to understand this in its correct import. Now, for a man of steady wisdom or man of knowledge, remember, means a Brahmagyani, I would say, the cause of their action, or the driving factor of their action, is their nature only, not the self knowledge here. Okay, so understand this word very clearly. Huh? Our knowledge actually is something which can, and create an understanding and help us generate faith in that. But how will we act outside will completely depend upon our nature. Okay, now let's understand this man of steady wisdom first. Now, before the dawn of self-knowledge in this man of steady wisdom, before the dawn of knowledge, yes, this man of steady wisdom must have worked upon purifying his intent and his swabhava, his nature, must have worked towards gaining internal purity, or I would use the word antakarana shuddhi. Of course, without antakarana shuddhi, the dawn of self-knowledge cannot happen. Okay, this is one thing we need to understand. So I'm trying to correlate both the things for you to understand. Let's understand the man of steady wisdom, because Bhagwan used supreme consciousness, Bhagwan Krishna used this word here, Jnanavan api. So why did Bhagwan use that word? Let's understand that first. So before the dawn of knowledge in a man of steady wisdom, his nature or his habit must have been purified by him through his self effort. Then only the dawn of knowledge could have happened. Then only this man of steady wisdom could have gained the self knowledge. Now, before the dawn of knowledge, since before the dawn of knowledge, he has already purified his nature. Or then after the dawn of knowledge also, after the after the experience, self experience has already happened to him, after the knowledge has already been gained by him, the action of a saint, of a man of steady wisdom, will also be always sattvic. Okay, remember this thing, huh? Before the dawn of knowledge, this man of steady wisdom must have made an effort or effortful action towards purifying his action, towards purifying his nature, or carving out his nature to become sattvic. Without a sattvic antakarana, the self knowledge cannot happen. Self knowledge cannot be gained. Self knowledge cannot dawn. Simple as that. Okay. So, since he has already purified his nature to prepare himself to gain the self knowledge, that's why the same purified nature continues after the knowledge has happened to this man of wisdom also. That is why his action will always be sattvic in nature post the wisdom has already happened in him, for post the knowledge, post becoming the man of steady wisdom. Okay, this thing is true in its correct form, but why I explained you this much, but the fact remains there, is what Bhagwan said. His acts are being propelled by his nature only, not by the knowledge. That is what you need to gain clearly here. The cause of his action is his nature, not the knowledge. Yes, before even the knowledge happened, he has already purified them. But even though he has purified them, the knowledge has already happened in him. He has become a man of steady wisdom, sthita prajna. He has become a man of realization. But his actions are always propelled by his nature only, even though that has become sattvic. Since it has become sattvic, his actions will always be sattvic post the realization also. A man of steady wisdom or a man of self knowledge has actually improved his nature. That is why all his efforts or all his actions will always move in the direction of sattvic only. Why? Because his nature, he has made it sattvic. That is what I wanted to explain. It was a little subtle, but I wanted to explain you why, because you don't end up misunderstanding this particular verse. Now, if all actions for a man of steady wisdom is also propelled by his nature, which is cultivated, which has already worked upon improving, which has become sattvic now. Because his nature has become sattvic, his actions will always become sattvic. But if this is the state of a man of steady wisdom, then Bhagwan Shankaracharya uses the word here, murkha. What to talk about ignorant fools? They are completely under the sway of their nature, but their nature is a destroying kind of a nature. Now, when you read newspaper and read ghori incidents, weird incidents, those incidents which are not even worthy of listening to, forget about who has been inflicted those things upon somebody. So when you read them, you'll understand what is that is propelling such animalistic tendencies in human beings. They have never ever worked towards cultivating positive values, positive qualities. They have never made an effort to understand dharma. They have never ever understood the correct way of life. That is what Srimad Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. The correct way of life, so that we correct our understanding. With correct understanding only we can move into the correct direction. Now, for example, you are traveling by car, but you know the destination, but you do not know the path. Will you ever be able to reach the destination correctly? No. You, just because you know the destination, it will not help you go into the make you reach the destination unless and until you know the correct path also. Knowing the destination is definitely important. Knowing the correct destination is definitely important, but equally important for you to for to help you reach there is going to be knowing the correct path also. So Srimad Bhagavad Gita, through Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Supreme Consciousness Bhagavan Krishna is teaching us the correct path of reaching our destination of life. If this is the state of a man of wisdom, then what to talk about ignorant fool? All of those people who are ignorant, how will they ever be able to move away or correct their nature? How will they be able to control all their nature? Their actions are also governed by their nature, which they have cultivated over past lives and continue to enhance through this particular life. Enhance in a wrong way I'm talking about. So then the meaning is, till the time we are able to improve our nature, till that point in time, those factors which guide us in the path of life will not be able we will not be able to correct them at all. So, means what? Till the time one is not able to improve their nature, till the time they are not able to improve those factors which guide them, govern them into the nature, or are able to correct the path of theirs, till that time a man will not be able to act in a saintly manner. In case somebody's nature is already sattvic at this point in time, remember, then the effort required by that person is only to strengthen his or her sattvic habits, is only to actually work upon them so that he is able to continuously retain them and strengthen them within them. But for those who do not have such factors in their life yet, but who do not have the correct forces to guide them in their life yet, they are the one who need to actually diligently look for correcting their choices in life through whatever they have. A person who has these sattvic qualities in him or her must work towards strengthening them and ensuring that they follow it diligently so that the continuity is maintained and they are able to retain those things. But vis-a-vis them, if there is someone who does not have these kind of factors residing in them, in their nature, or they have such things which cannot be called as saintly things at all, means where rather than having compassion, they are very very adamant about things. Rather than having anusuya, they have asuya within them. Rather than having single pointedness, their attention is spread across many directions. Rather than having faith, they have lack of faith within them. Then in that case, such people must work towards improving their nature. No, just pointing out mistake or fault in the action merely is not going to help them at all. They are not going to gain by that at all, that action is wrong, this is wrong, that is wrong, this is faulty, that is faulty. There is no gains and going to be derived from such things at all. In this is context, we must understand, and the meaning of prakriti here actually means the nature of a human being. Our own nature is what we need to understand. Now, why I use that word as prakriti? Because the word prakriti has come before also. This term prakriti has come before also in the verse where Bhagwan said prakrite kriyamanani gunaihi karmani. There where Bhagwan Bhashyakar had given the meaning of the word prakriti as the equal state of or equanimous state of our gunas. That was the meaning of prakriti given there. But since here the context is our own behavior, our own action in the world, here the meaning of the word prakriti is going to be different from what has been explained there. I told you in Sanskrit every word has got many meanings, so we have to take the contextual meaning. So since the context which is going on here is about our own action and behavior in the world, that is why here the meaning of the word prakriti will differ. Prakriti hi nama purvakrit dharma dharmadi samskara. The meaning of the word nature here, or nature of human being here, will be the whatever actions have been done by him in the past, whether dharma or adharma, the impression or the culture created by them within him is what will be called as prakriti here. Now, remember, here what we, and when we are talking about or what here, we need to have a clarity about that term here. We are not talking about the results of dharma and adharma done in our past, which come in this life as result or fruit. We are not talking about them. We are talking about the culture we have cultivated and with the acts of dharma and adharma are done in the past. Now, one thing, since I am on this topic, I'll tell you, prarabdha of us actually, or the past action, and prarabdha means those past actions done by us which have reached the stage of bearing fruit currently. They are called prarabdha. So remember one thing, prarabdha is the deciding factor or of our situations which manifest around us. So prarabdha will decide what kind of situation manifests around us. What kind of situations I'll face in life will always be guided and decided by my prarabdha. Whereas the culture or nature which I have cultivated will become the deciding factor for how I act in the world, in the available situations also, in things presented in front of me also. So how I act will depend upon the culture or nature I have cultivated, whereas what situation will manifest around me or what situation I will be made to face in life will be decided by my own prarabdha. Okay, my past actions. It, because our situations we face in life is a result of our past action. Now, prarabdha will what you call that, make situations around me or manifest situations around me, whereas my nature will make my what you call that, my act in the world. How I act in the world will be decided by my nature, whereas situations will be decided by my prarabdha. Now, in adverse situation also, a person can remain calm and composed. If a person remains calm and composed in adverse situation also, that calmness and composure which this person has is a result of the culture and nature he has cultivated. It is a result of that. Now, on the other side, there are people who can remain agitated in so-called decent situations also. In good, favorable situations also, somebody can remain agitated. That is their nature. That is their culture. They have, who cultivated. Whereas there are person who in adverse situation also can maintain their calmness and composure. It completely depends on the nature, on the habit cultivated by a person or the culture cultivated by a person. Both these are result of the nature cultivated, whether remaining calm and composed in adverse also, whether becoming agitated in good situations also. Both these are a result of my own nature and my own culture I have cultivated in life. Now, these two, even though these two reactions are completely opposite in nature, remember, the cause of these reactions are not situations at all. the cause of this reaction, even though they are completely adverse in nature, they're completely opposite in nature, the cause of these reactions will always be my nature, my habit. Vartamana janmadau abhivyakta sa prakriti. Whether it is in this life or whether it is cultivated in the past life, the nature I have cultivated through my actions in the past life and this life, they are the one who will be expressed through my actions. Abhivyakta sa prakriti, they are the one who gets expressed through my actions. Now the question which should arise in all of us is that, in case nature is what, nature is something which we have got from our birth, and it is so effective and becomes the controller of my actions, and my actions are all governed by them, and uh, even through knowledge also I cannot improve my actions, then why are so many teachings given to us about correcting our, or what you call that, so many teachings given about self control and other things? If some nature is something which is, it's already coming with us with my birth, it's given to me with my birth. Given to me means not given by somebody else, huh? It is already coming with me with my birth, and I am always going to be under the, it is so effective that all my actions are actually propelled through that only. Then, and knowledge is not, is that something which is not going to change my nature, then why are so many teachings of self control all given to us? As then the second question which should come is that, then how will we be able to improve ourselves? First is, then why are so many teachings of self control given to us? But if nature is something which is so effective and is going to guide me, push me into action, propel me into action, then how are each one of us going to improve us? We see so many pitiable ways of action of people. We see so many pathetic action of people in the society. Do you mean to say that there is no hope? Is that what we are trying to say here? You know, uh, yes, it is true that there are people of all kind of natures in this world. It is true that nature is very very effective, and that is also correct, and it is also correct in its understanding that nature is very powerful to push us into action. These things are correct, but then the question would also be there should be some arrangement in place so that each one of us can try to work upon our self improvement. There should be some methodology which should be available, using which we should be able to evolve. It should not be that my nature is such, I will only go down the drain. I have no respite to grow up at all. Then what is the meaning of so many lokas? What is the meaning of swarga and other? If nature is something which is going to guide us, then all these things become redundant. Is that what we should understand from this? I told you, there are subtle aspects which are hidden in this, which we need to understand. So here the thing is, should we sit down saying that there is no respite for any one of us, so there is no way to evolve, there is no way to improve? Should we just sit with this understanding and feel sad that all each human being is enslaved by their own nature, is a slave to their own nature, and none of us can touch them at all because that is something which has come with them, along with them through, at the time of their birth, and it is something which is given to us at the time of birth, and we carry that at the time of birth. It's not something which I made here only, and it is so effective if that we are pushed into action, and according to that, then is there any way for my evolution at all? Is there any way left for me to improve upon on myself? Now here is one thing which I definitely want to bring about, and I recall Puja Gurudev on this particular point. And Puja Gurudev had said that in one of his session also, that it is important for us that we instill positive culture and the knowledge of dharma at the childhood itself. At the time when a kid is small child, up to the age of 13, our purva vasanas don't open up. You see the beautiful arrangement given by God to all of us, but how many of us really understand it? It is a brilliant arrangement given by a prakriti, by external nature, by God to each one of us. The nascent age called childhood, up to the age of 13, this is where Puja Gurudev had said that we must come up with something called Bal Vihar. Bal Vihar is for kids up to the age of 14. 14 or 15, up to 15 they keep there. But up to the age of 13, if you can make an effort to install cultural things in a kid, remember one thing: when vasanas open up at the age of 13, poor vasanas do not open up to the age of 13. That is why the moment a kid reaches the age of 13, there is some people will come back and tell us that there is a sudden change in their behavior, there is a sudden change in the terms of reaction, there is a sudden change in this kid. Why? Because purva vasanas have opened up. But before those purva vasanas open up, if we are able to build a strong positive culture in a kid, we are able to build strong positive values in a kid. Trust me, when the vasanas open up, those vasanas will not have the strength to force or push this kid into action, even though the vasanas may be adverse. I'm going to pick up this point in our next session. And this much for today. The remaining detail we'll see in the next session. There are more to it more depth and subtle aspects to it, which I'll take up in the next session. So that much for today. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि, श्रीमन्नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम तत्सत्।